So in part one, we identified and defined what a challenge is. Now let's talk about the values of a challenge. So reminder, a challenge, something a little scary. It's going to get you out of your comfort zone. It's going to take you on a journey. You're not sure if you can be successful. Am I just being nasty? No, I'm a coach. I'm guiding you on a path where you can actually evolve and improve. And the only way you're going to do that is if you do get to that place of growth, which is in the place of discomfort. No matter if I'm talking about an athlete who's focused on improving your skills, or a leader who's seeking to show up better across life, or in fact, anyone looking to improve in something so important for you, I encourage you to avoid taking a random approach and instead define direction. As human beings, we do better with that. Having an operating framework is going to drive effectiveness, it's going to drive your accountability to yourself, it's going to ensure that you can actually commit to something with direction. And your chances of success, I consistently see, are radically improved. Here are some of the key values that I see as a coach when I see people taking on a commitment to a challenge. Number one, getting out of your comfort zone. There's a truth. And if you consider this, in any arena, you only grow when you're uncomfortable. We're often hesitant to lean into commitments that make us uncomfortable. But the truth is, this is how we grow and improve. And many adults are really seldom, outside of their professional life where it's somewhat forced upon us, really seldom do we go outside of our comfort zone. If we're comfortable going for a run, we go for a run. If we like to practice guitar, we practice guitar. But how often do you suddenly say, I'm going to learn how to paint? Or like Sean did, I'm going to go and join the theatre. I'm going to do something that's well outside of my comfort zone. Now, as children, we do that all the time. It's called play. And play is the perfect, relatively low-risk environment where we can test, we can practice, we can learn from successes and failures, and we develop. But as adults, we tend to fall into a comfort zone. We go to work, we come home, we play with our kids, and we go to dinner, or we watch a movie. Or maybe we choose a sport that we're pretty comfortable with. We have an exercise routine, whatever it is. But taking on a challenge is the best opportunity for growth outside of what we have to do in our professional life. So I think that's a big part of the reason that you see a lot of busy executives and time-starved individuals that manage a lot of competing demands say, I'm actually going to go and train for a marathon. I'm going to try and climb Mount Everest. It's because they intuitively understand that growth is going to occur. It's going to get them out of their comfort zone. It's going to force them for operational effectiveness, for great time management, and they're going to go on a journey where they're doing something that is going to deliver a sense of accomplishment but a host of lessons. So the first benefit of taking on a challenge is to get you out there growing. And there is nothing that is better for the brain and the body than growth in the comfort zone. So that's really important. And think about this. I said that we're hesitant to get out of that comfort zone. But I want you to try and consider right now anything in your life that's really valuable to you, that has importance, that's come to you really easily, without much effort. Is there anything in which it's just landed on the lap and you said, I really treasure this? Almost everything that we really cherish requires work. And so I invite you to not retreat from challenge, but embrace it, to lean into the discomfort. A second value related to this is the opportunity for a challenge for you to set new limits. Challenge your body and mind to stretch to new limits. You have the opportunity to elevate and improve your health, your fitness, the results and the sense of accomplishment, your daily energy, everything. As a human being, most of us that care about our performance and how we show up in life, We want our lives that are quite often big to get even bigger, to grow and to improve. And the only way that's going to happen is if you actually set a path, define it, have the compass, and go on the journey. So the challenge represents the thing that is going to enable you to improve, to actually reach new limits. So if you watch a movie, you maybe just recently watched the Olympics and you're inspired. You don't want to become an Olympian, but you do want to grow and improve. And so a challenge is the thing that is going to help you set new limits, really important. And finally, number 3, the challenge itself is the thing that is the stake in the ground. In other words, related to getting out of your comfort zone, setting new limits, the challenge is the thing that guides your direction, that actually informs your focus, your actions within a roadmap. And without direction, without that challenge, you will be rudderless. What do they say? Wherever you go, there you are. Well, if you randomly go places, you're going to kind of be everywhere, but nowhere at the same time. And so a challenge for you is the thing that defines direction. And we are benefiting from that whenever we go on a journey. So if we apply these principles to performance and health, what are the outcomes that we see with folks that actually do commit to a challenge? Here's what occurs. And remember, we started the show, Tim Reed, Marina losing all of that weight, Ben navigating a mental health crisis, all of these stories. What are some of the outcomes that we tend to see when people do have the courage and ultimately commit to challenge? Well, the first thing is they achieve. They actually achieve their goals. And what that does is it builds a sense of accomplishment, pride, satisfaction. It fosters enjoyment because it's really rewarding. And quite often missed, it also can help develop inner confidence, a pathway to even future growth. It's no wonder that every high achiever that I've worked with in business or in sport loves challenges, is goal-driven. It's because they realize that is the catalyst of growth. The second outcome that we see is if a challenge is appropriate, then we should see an outcome, particularly under the banner of a physical challenge, in other words, under the banner of fitness, health, sport. If the challenge is appropriate, we should see another outcome beyond the pride, beyond the satisfaction, beyond the development of confidence. And that's that we should see the development and improvement of the baseline of health, a physical ready state, what we call the performance base layer. Because if the actions are appropriate, then we should see our overall physical readiness improve. You should have better and more stable energy. You should have an improved baseline of health. You should have better immunity from major diseases. You should have increased cognitive function, our ability to process information, access memories, make decisions in a better and faster manner. In other words, we should be equipped to show up better. And you can point that better energy and cognitive function to anything that's important to you. But this challenge is the vehicle in which we're developing that. And the third value that you get is the journey itself. By going on this challenge, that's setting a path for your actions, that is bringing you out of your comfort zone, the journey itself is the passage for you to hone and improve many of the traits that make up what I call a high-performance mindset. It requires commitment. It requires you to prioritize, to focus. It's going to force you to be adaptable because it will include roadblocks. You have to showcase mental and physical resiliency and many, many more along the way. And that's the value. That's the common thread between the Marinas losing weight and Tim Reed winning a world championship and Ben overcoming a mental health crisis is they get physically healthier, they get stronger in brain, and they develop confidence and a sense of well-being, pride and satisfaction. And that encapsulates to becoming a higher performing human being. So with all of that there, the value is clear to see. So why do so many avoid taking on a challenge? Well, to be honest, it's perfectly normal. Many of us do. Some people don't feel the need for it and don't have much interest, but I think they're missing a big part of an opportunity to grow and improve and show up better in life. But there are several deeper reasons as well. Firstly, you may think that you're too busy with too many other competing demands and priorities in life. And you think about a challenge, be it deciding to train and race a marathon, or maybe building habits where you're going to walk 20 minutes after dinner every night, or perhaps even taking on a challenge to climb Everest or compete in your first 5K, whatever it is. And the first instinct is, I'm already too busy. This is just going to be another thing to add on to life. I don't have the time for that. Well, it's not true, but that's the natural instinct that we have. What we start to realize is the very busiest people who are high performers all take on these challenges. And so maybe we should too, because we all have the same 168 hours every week. And by prioritizing a set number, not many hours, but a set number of hours to this challenge every week, it's proven that it unlocks your effectiveness and how you show up across all of the other hours of the week. And so it's an investment. But that's one of the reasons. Many people think I'm too busy. A second reason that I see is intimidation. After all, it's not easy to get out of your comfort zone. And it's not unusual to have a fear of maybe personal exposure, a little bit of a fear of failure. If I take on this challenge and I do it, what are people going to think if I struggle, if I fail, if I can't get it done? And so we tend to protect ourselves, hold ourselves back. You know what? I'm pretty happy in this comfortable place, but we're not going to grow when we have that. And finally, sometimes people are hesitant because of prior failures. Maybe you've tried to take on a challenge, but you haven't followed through, or you've fallen off the roadmap at some stage for whatever the reason might be. And that happens. But let me provide you with perspective on these. As I mentioned, the busiest and the most successful people that I know, that I've worked with, universally, absolutely universally, there isn't anyone that doesn't apply to this rule. The most successful people that I've worked with love to maintain a challenge around their health and performance. This is something that is universal. I just want to pause and think about that. We might feel like we're busy. You might feel you have too many competing demands. But the most successful people that I've met and worked with who are managing colossal demands, universally, every single one of them prioritizes their health and loves to take on a challenge. The reason I believe they do this is because it ensures, that challenge ensures a prioritization of key performance habits that they understand are required to help them perform in other areas of life. They also appreciate that that challenge is the very thing not to dump on top of life, but that integrate in life that forces their effectiveness. It actually forces prioritization. It is a driver for them to remove the stuff that is not productive. So they have to become highly effective in order to be successful. And counterintuitively, that comes together, to which that framework is the very thing that actually gives them time back. And this is where it's counterintuitive. You're adding a challenge and a set of commitments into an already busy life, and it is that addition that unlocks capacity. And it isn't until you feel that and you experience it that you would be wholly dedicated to it. But I tell you, every successful, high-performing person that I've worked with absolutely commits to this. High performers always have a challenge. How about the fear of failure? Well, I think that it's important for us to pause when we think about this. and realize that this is not a journey in which I am comparing myself to others. You need to compare yourself to others. This is a journey which is yours, from your starting point to where you want to go. This is self-improvement. This isn't competition in sport. This isn't trying to qualify to the Olympics, win Olympic gold, qualify to the Hawaii Iron World Championship, get on the podium. It's not about that. This is a journey for me to improve myself. This is a journey for you to improve yourself from wherever you're at right now to wherever you want to go. And so the benefit that you're going to get, that we're all going to get, emerges much more from the day-to-day, weekly commitment, in other words, the journey, more than any destination you can imagine. And so if you can just build enough courage to commit and take the first steps, they don't need to be giant leaps. They need to be little mini steps that you can take over a long period of time to progress and slowly, before you realize it, realize that you've gone through transformation. And you will be amazed when you do that, how others, far from judging you, actually want to help, are willing to support you, and even can foster a sense of accountability along the way. And so as we go through this, I found quite often that the most inspirational people that I've worked with are not the ones who are the highest achievers, that accomplish the world championships, but are actually the ones that have the courage to put aside the struggles, to step up, to share their personal goals and aim to improve. Let me give you a really good example. Tim Reed, wonderful athlete, world champion, terrific, inspired a lot of people. It's fantastic. But Marina, she's never going to be a world champion. But she'd never exercised in her life. And she said, I'm an athlete. I'm going to become an athlete. And over the course of 2 years, lost 100 pounds. She inspired vastly more people just by her actions, her commitment, and her evolution and journey. It was relatable. And so you have the opportunity, if you've struggled before, if you're worried about what people are thinking, you have the opportunity to be a lightning rod of inspiration. And that's going to be incredibly rewarding. All of us have the potential to be champions for ourselves. And if you've tried this before, if you've been inspired on other occasions and you've fallen off the wagon, you've failed before, that's okay. Because so has every single champion. That's a part of the journey. What happens when you fall off? You fail, you get up again, and you make this one a success. I'm sure at some stage you've seen enough movies of accomplishments out of struggles. And I'm sure it provided some short-term inspiration. Well, now this is the chance. Go on and create your own movie. Go and thrive and inspire for yourself. And that's the value. But there's one more thing, one more catalyst, a twister to magnify and create an even bigger impact for yourself. How do you amplify your results? It's not just about you taking on a challenge, but take on a challenge with others. Apply a team mindset. I believe this is something I've spent the last 20 minutes talking about, the value of a challenge, defining what it is and what it's going to give to you. And it's pretty compelling. But if you want to get even more, become part of a team. Do it with others. By taking on a challenge with others, you start to enjoy or start to employ the elements of team, support, and accountability. Now, this might be just one person. Maybe you're doing it with your partner or spouse, your best mate, your co-worker, someone from the community. Or perhaps you're becoming a part of a group. It's your journey still, but sharing it is going to give you outsized results. It's going to make the journey more fun. You're going to get bigger rewards. You've got a much higher opportunity for success. And by doing this, taking on this challenge as a part of a group or a team, you get the trifecta of all elements of performance. You're going to build physical health, your performance-based that. You're going to develop through the experiences, the traits that make up high performance. And you're going to have an amplifier of team. You're going to feel a part of something. And that's going to foster greater success. Let me show you a really quick personal case study on this. I'm a pretty hard worker. But the truth is that when it comes to this stuff, I'm inherently relatively lazy. If I don't have direction, if I don't have a path and some form of accountability externally. And so I thought of, a couple of years ago, deciding to go and do a trail running race. Let's go and take on a challenge, 50 kilometers, something that's pretty different relative to my weaknesses in my sport of choice, which was triathlon, swim, bike, and run. The run was my weakest point. I run like a donkey dipped in cement. So I got out of my comfort zone and said, I'm going to go and try and do a 50 kilometer. But I didn't really follow through because I didn't share it with anyone. And I stayed fit and I ran consistently, but I didn't really grow. It wasn't a stake in the ground. All it was a thought. And it wasn't until I registered for an event with my mate Pete that suddenly I had a real challenge. And I didn't sign up for a 50 kilometer. I signed up for a 50-mile race, almost 20 additional miles. And I did it with my friend Pete. There was my team. Now, why was I successful on adhering to a program and following through and racing that race? I don't care where I came. I can't remember where I came, but I had the internal sense of accomplishment and I yielded all of the benefits. But why was it successful? Well, I had a shared journey and I was scared. I wasn't sure I could run 50 miles, but so was my mate Pete. And so what we set up was a very loose system of accountability and support, despite actually seldom running together. But we shared the journey. It became an anchor of our communication. And we worked together, albeit often independently, towards the goal. And when the race actually came, it became fun. Both of our families joined us. It was up in Oregon. We had a cracking weekend. And then, of course, afterwards, we spent way too much time telling each other of our own stories and examples of struggles and peaks and valleys, and, of course, a healthy dose of heroism along the way. In other words, it helped me adhere to the program and navigate the journey. And it helped him. It helped us. And so if you really want to amplify your chances of success, get more out of it, and get to your best performance, then make sure you're embracing the concept of team. Become a part of something. Don't go it alone. Alrighty, so with that, if you've got your challenge and you understand why and what you're getting out of it, now what do you do with that? You've identified it, now what are the actions? That's going to be in part 3.